Okay. So now what we are going to do is, so we saw in every SDLC, in STLC life cycle, we have requirement analysis. Then we used to do test plan. Then we used to do test case designing. Then we had something called test environment setup, right? Which comes before testing, right? So test environment setup. So we'll see what is test environment setup. Then how we prepare test data for the test environment setup, and finally we'll see about requirement traceability matrix. Okay, so this is going to be the agenda for us for today. So going to the next, so test environment setup. So this is a important phase of your STLC. So now we have a developed code. Okay, these people, who are the developers, have done it on their local machines and they have the developed code, but we can't go to their machines and we can't test it in the environment which they have created the code, right? So what they will do is they will put their code into another environment which will be testable for us. So testable for us means we'll be performing a test case execution in that environment. So how they will prepare the test environment for us is like they will match what and all while developing the code, what hardware they used, what network, what software they used, everything they will replicate it as a new environment for us, and they will give it. Okay, because as a developer you will be having 10 different developers what developing 10 different modules. Okay, but for us while testing we need all the modules to be together and which we can execute and test, right? So for that is the purpose they'll be creating a test environment for us. So this is also an important interview question. Okay, what is the test environment, they'll be asking. So you have to clearly define them, why it is done and how it is done. So the test environment setup is nothing but a setup of hardware, network and software which supports our test execution. Okay, so how it will be configured is it will be configured as required for application under test. So we have something called UAT, right? That is user acceptance testing. This is called AUT, accept application under test. Application under test is nothing but the software which we are going to perform a test execution, right? That is called as application under test or production. They'll be doing it for testing environment, and we have to also have an environment for production, right? So that is called configured as required for the application under test or production. So we have something called test bed. Okay, this is an important interview question again. They'll ask you what is a test bed. You should never say test environment is a test bed. You should not say. This is a common mistake happening in interviews. But test bed is nothing but combination of your test environment and your test data. Now you have a test environment which, and you will prepare a separate test data to execute your test cases on that test environment, right? So combination of those two is called as test bed. Okay, so you're clear on what a test environment is, right? Any question? Okay, fine. So we have few key elements which needs to be taken care while preparing the test environment. Okay, we can't just like that push everything and give the environment to the QA or production for testing or usage. We need some key elements to concentrate and to have a checklist of. So those are application under test. Yes, the application, the software application which is built should be finally in a part of your testing environment. Next, we should have a test data for that. And next, the database server. Okay, the one which the project was developed, that server should be available on the testing environment to perform testing. And the hardware and OS should be available for the testers. Network should be available, and all types of browsers should also be available for the testers to perform their execution, right? And we need a front end. Obviously, this application under test will be having a front end, but a proper front end should be uh, is required for this. And then, sorry, and then for the testing people, you need to give them a defect tracking tool. Okay, so these are the important elements or while preparing your test environment. Okay, fine. So now going on to the next. So if you see here, we have different environment setup done in our project phase. Okay, so one is development environment, which is for developers. Then comes the QA environment, which is for testers. Then we have UAT testers, right? We have few end users who will be performing the UAT testing, right? For them also, when the UAT will be performed, I think you people will be knowing. So before giving the complete application to the production, the few end users will be testing on the sample production environment, that is called as UAT environment. Okay, so that an environment setup needs to be done for this also, and then we'll be having a production environment. So here, as a developer, what will happen is like, see, they will be having a say Amazon site, we are going to develop, imagine. Okay, so how they will have it as dev dot amazon.com. So they'll be having a local, each and every person, right? They'll be having, so I'm not comfortable writing here, I'll show you. So when you come to your dev environment, how it will be is, uh, see, we are having, the product is called as amazon.com. Okay, that is going to be our final product. So how they will develop is dev dot, these people, each and every one will be working on their local systems. Okay, and they'll be having a local URL for them to execute the code and check the application. So imagine we have two developers. Okay, dev dot user 001 dot amazon dot com, not com, they'll have be having it as net or something for them to use. Okay, dev dot local user. Okay, this will be the first what is the environment for the developers to develop their code. Okay, now coming to this, for the second developer, how would be like, he'll be having it in the same way, but he'll be a second user, so he'll create his own environment in this way, and they will be developing the code in this. Okay, now when they give these, deploy these to the QA environment. Okay, now how it will be is, they will merge these two and they will give qa.amazon.com. Okay, this will be our QA, and how our QA environment will be. Okay, so we'll be performing our testing in this. And next comes the UAT. So for UAT, it will be uat.amazon.com. Okay, and once the what is this? Your UAT is done, then your final on your production, that is the link which we see like this, www.amazon.com. So this is how in each environment your URL will look like. And this is the environment. The test environment is nothing but the developed code put under a URL and given to us for testing. Okay, so are you people clear how this works? Any question from anyone? Okay. So going to the next. So now we have an environment. Now we need data for that to perform our testing, right? So that data will be prepared by us. So how we will be preparing a data is, our data should match the how the on production data, how the user will use it. You should always assume and think in that way, and you should always prepare your test data in that way. Okay, so using that test data and the test environment only, we'll be executing our manual test cases and automation test script to perform our testing. Okay, someone has put a message. Oh, why is my voice breaking? Is it
Sounds
clear?
fine, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So test data preparation is nothing but we are going to simulation of production data to test the application on QA environment, whatever environment it is. We usually do it on QA environment, so I have put it here. Okay, so it is used to execute test cases and test script. Test script means automation test cases are always called as test scripts. Okay, so for that we'll be using. So there are different types of test data. So one is valid test data, invalid test data, no data, null test data. So valid test data is whatever, see, how it is I give a valid ID and password, I click on login, it should log in. So for these type of valid scenarios, I have, or positive testing, right? They will in what to say, in software testing field, they will call it as happy path testing. Happy path testing means no negative testing, I will only test it in a positive way, positive flow. Okay, so that type of, for that type of testing, you have to prepare your valid test data. Invalid is obviously the other way, so it is going to be a negative. For your negative testing, you will have a set of test data. And no data, even without data I'll be testing, right? So I have a search field, and when I click on search, I need to get few things. On Amazon, if I give what to say, if I give bag and click on search, I have to get all the searches related to bags. But I can also test my application by just hitting on search without entering anything. But what is that is like, we should not get anything on our search result. So that type of testing is called as with test data preparation will fall under no data test data preparation. Okay, null test data is, see, imagine you have a database, right? So in that database, if you have something called null values, right? No data is always different from null. Okay, don't get confused with both. So in case your database is having null, what will happen is your application will throw out error. Okay, so that type of data also we need to prepare, and we have to perform our testing. Okay, any questions? Okay, fine. So
மேம்,
yeah,
இப்போ நம்ம டெஸ்ட் கேஸ் எழுதும்போது வேலிட் டெஸ்ட் மட்டும் எழுதணுமா, டெஸ்ட் கேசஸ் மட்டும் எழுதணுமா, இல்ல அந்த டெஸ்ட் எழுதும்போது இன்வாலிட் கேஸ் எழுதணுமா?
invalid எழுதணும், கண்டிப்பா எழுதணும். We have to write negative test cases, not only positive test. We have to write negative test cases. So how we'll write is, if we write for a login, right? So you we have test case designing techniques, you remember? So using that, we in that we had some like positive, true, false, false and all, you remember? So like that you have to write for false also. அதாவது வேலிட் ஐடி இன்வாலிட் பாஸ்வேர்டுக்குமே நான் சினாரியோ எழுதணும். நான் உங்களுக்கு எழுதும் போதே நான் எழுதி காட்டியிருப்பேனே, அது நெகட்டிவ் டெஸ்டிங்கும்
ஓகே
பண்ணணும். சாரி,
ஓகே ஓகே
ஓகே ஓகே.
Ma'am,
நவ யா,
ma'am, any example for null values, ma'am?
null values na adan in database, right? Sometimes due to some actions on our application, your database value might become null. Okay, so this is a very rare test case. Okay, rare scenario. Or what we can do, what we do is, we'll go to the database and update the value as null. Okay, இப்போ அமேசான்ல வந்து உங்களுக்கு you have a product with name ABC. Okay, one second. Check. Now you have a product starting with AB. Okay, ABC, AB001, AB something, you have something, a list of products. Okay, so now what I will do is, we have AB also, right? So now what I will do, I'll go to that product, I will update my price, or I'll update that value, the A being a value way, I will update it as null. in database. Backend I will do this. Okay, this is also part of testing. So you have to learn SQL also for testing. You have to have a basic knowledge of SQL also while you are going to do a manual testing or automation testing or anything. Okay, so at that time what will happen is that will change as null, right? The database value will be null now. So when I try to search that AB product, what will happen is the search result will throw out an error. Server error வரும் சில நேரம். உங்களுக்கு அந்த டேட்டா வந்து தப்பா இருக்கு, இங்க null value இருக்கு, pull ஆக மாட்டேங்குது. Pull ஆகக்கூடாது. As per scenario, it should not pull. But what will happen is sometimes your server will get error. So that type of testing will be handled in null test data. Okay? புரிஞ்சுதா அஸ்வினி?
புரியல மேம்.
இல்ல இப்போ இப்போ இருங்களேன், ஒரு உங்க அப்ளிகேஷன் ஒன்னு இருக்கு.
பேக்எண்ட்ல நல் வேல்யூன்னு இருக்கும்னு சொல்றீங்க. அது ஏன்?
அது நம்ம தான் டெஸ்டிங்காக செட் பண்ணணும். நம்ம வாண்டடா நம்ம அதை செட் பண்ணுவோம். இப்போ உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு அப்ளிகேஷன் இருக்கு, ஓகேங்களா? You have one search. Okay, in this you have a product. In now you have a database. Okay, in this okay, not don't think about application. This is a school form, a school search engine. Okay, now you have a database, roll number, name, and class. Okay, roll number 001 is Menaka, class 5, and 002 is some, okay, Chandru, he is of class 3, and we have 003 as Ashwini, class of 1. Okay, and we have multiple students here with their details. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, here we in the search engine we have one for roll number and one for name. Okay, name konnu irukku, roll number irukku. With the combination of both, I can get the result from this database. This is a database. Okay, now as a tester, what I'll do is, I'll open the database. I will remove this. Removing na making it as null. So database lo உங்களுக்கு இந்த இடத்துல null ன்னு வந்துரும். You'll get it as null. Okay, now you will make this as null from using a query, SQL query use பண்ணி I'll make it as null. Now what I will do is, I will put in the roll number as 3 and I will try to search for Ashwini. Now what I will be expecting, this detail should get pulled in the expected result, but I wantedly updated this as null. Now when I hit on search, right, what will happen is the page will crash sometimes. Okay, or sometimes it will say a person not found, or Selenero will get a external pop-up saying that SQL error, or your page will get hanged. There are lots of scenarios. Okay, lots of things can happen by having a database value as null. Understood?
எஸ் மேம்.
Okay.
ஆனா ஒரு டவுட் மேம்.
சொல்லுங்க சொல்லுங்க.
நல்லன்னு கொடுத்து நம்ம சர்வர் எரர் வருதான்னு நம்மளே செக் பண்றோம் மேனுவலா கொடுத்து.
சர்வர் எரர் வரக்கூடாது. ஓகேங்களா? my expected result should be, if I don't have the value in the database, I should it should not return any value on my screen. This is my expected. Okay, because I have updated it as null. But because of this null, if I get a server error, it is a critical issue, because always there are chances people might make mistakes. Okay, so productionல போய் ஏதாவது ஒரு டேட்டால ஏதாவது ஒரு சினாரியோல நல்லன்னு இருந்ததுன்னா, productionல சர்ச் பண்ணும்போது அவனுக்கு சிஸ்டம் கிராஷ் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா, it's going to be a big issue, right? So these are very important scenarios when you do your testing. Maybe it is manual or automation. You have to like have it on mind. Okay.
Okay ma'am.
Okay. So now you saw what is valid test data, invalid test data, no data, and null test data, right? Now we'll go to the next one. Next one is test data creation techniques. So how are we going to create this test data? Is an important part of test data preparation. So the first one is going to be manually, based on our experience. or even without experience we can prepare. How reading the test scenarios, we have test cases also, so based on that, so if I put such kind of data, this will be, I can test this scenario. If I give this negative data, it should perform in this way. So by thinking in that way manually, we have to prepare a test data in an Excel sheet. Okay, this is one technique. Next is automated data generation tools. There are lots and lots of open source also, we have lots of test data generation tool. See, in few applications, right? Say, imagine this scenario itself. Okay, uh, now I have a what is this? This is a form, registration form, okay, of students. Okay, so I have name, age, date of birth, class, father's name, mother's name, and all. So this can, and if I hit on okay, this data will get saved in the database of my school. But imagine that we are going to have 100 people to be registered. I can't manually sit and enter each and every person, right? Instead, we can put these details on an Excel form. Okay. In an Excel, we'll have name, class, father's name, mother's name, age, and all. And we'll have a upload button. There are few pages here like this in your applications, which when you go, when you start working and test across, you might see. So here, what we will do is, here we will have a upload button, and on hitting the upload button I can upload this Excel sheet here, and the values will get saved on the application and its database. Okay, so now we need to test this upload scenario. Okay, a bulk data for upload scenario, how is this going to work? I can't go and sit and create manually around 1000 students records on a Excel sheet, right? Instead, on online itself, if you hit a search itself, you can see free free data generation tool for testing. If you give, what will happen is it will have multiple tools for generating data with fields also. So we can give the field names, and we can just uh, ask the system to generate a test data for us, and it'll give out a Excel sheet with 1000 student list. Okay, so that I can go and I can upload here and test. So this is how we do for testing. Maximum, mostly where it will be used is in your performance testing. I said, right, stress testing, load testing, in that and all we need huge list of users data, right? So in that they'll be using automated data generation tool. Okay, so next what we can do is, now to we have few prediction data. Okay, now I am creating a application, and these people will be having data, right? If I'm going to create an application for a school, there will obviously be lots of students detail in a manual work with them, right? So we can replicate that detail and create a test data for our testing purpose. And next is database injection. I said you earlier, right? We go to a database, we update the value of Ashwini to null, and we test a scenario, right? So that method of injecting a data into database, different datas into database, and testing is called as database injection. Okay, understood the test data creation techniques?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any question from anyone? Okay, so now coming to the next topic, which is requirement traceability matrix. In STLC, you would have seen, right? In the requirement analysis phase, what is the exit criteria, the list of requirements, and requirement traceability matrix. Then what is the exit criteria of test case development, test case, sorry, test planning, test plan again with the traceability matrix. Then after testing or test case creation, we will be having our exit criteria as test cases and requirement traceability matrix again. So requirement traceability matrix plays a very important role in most of the phases of a STLC. So what is requirement traceability matrix? See, now what happens is, like, you go to hospital. Okay, you go to initially imagine with no data collection and all. You just go to a hospital, you get a you just go and meet the doctor, and he prescribes you some medicine for some stomach pain. Now again, you after 4 days, you are still again getting the stomach pain. Now you go to your doctor, but he doesn't remember when this guy came, what was his problem and all. So now, but now now how it happens is, they give a token number, they give you, or they give you a register number, and you get registered in their application. And what happens is, they have a record of your what history of your problems, and the doctor, he just puts in your registration number, and he gets all the details of what is your problem, what medicines he has given to you. Okay, so that is a kind of traceability happening. Traceability means, with a single data, you can get the details of the whole record of that patient, right? So that is this concept of traceability. So here we have requirements, we have tests, what is it, test scenarios, we have test cases, we have defects. So how are we going to map all these things? That is done in a requirement traceability matrix. Okay, so this, what and all it helps testers, in what ways it helps is, it helps testers to ensure nothing is missed from the requirement. So all the requirement will be mapped to your test script, and to your test case, and your defect also. Okay, so what will happen is, we can always ensure all the requirements are created or changed as test cases for testing purpose. And one more thing is the defect. Now we have a defect, we can again trace back saying, okay, this defect belongs to this, what to say, this test case belongs to this story belongs to this epic or feature. So we can trace back also, saying which epic is having a issue. And one more thing, imagine one, we are having a requirement change in epic 5, okay, or epic 50, we have a requirement change. If we have traceability matrix, we can know which test scenario needs to be updated and which test case needs to be updated. And we need to also retest the defect to ensure the requirement change is performed well. Okay, this is the use of a requirement traceability matrix. Hope you understand, right? Do you people understand? Okay, so helps testers to ensure nothing is missed from requirement. Okay, now each requirement is traced with respective test cases. So it will be mapped with each test cases. So while doing our end-to-end testing, it will be helpful, right? So will know if we have tested all the requirements which the customer wants. So with help of RTM, end-to-end testing can be achieved, because requirement to test scenario to test case, and test case to test defect mapping will be there. And these are the benefits, help in analyzing the impact of requirement change. I told you, right? So there is a feature change. Okay, now we'll also have a knowledge with RTM where and all this feature change is made. So imagine we have a product on Amazon. Okay, so we use that product ID to search. We use that product ID to add to cart. And so we use the same feature in multiple places, right? So if that field is changed, or that requirement is changed, we can also trace where all it will impact, and we can add our changes there also. Okay, helps in identifying the missing requirements. Obviously, if something is missed in the requirement, or if something is what to say, missed in a test cases also, we can we can identify it, and we can work on it. And helps in tracking bugs and find root cause of the defect. I told you, right? We have a defect, we'll come to know which test cases it is, which story it is, and which requirement it is. Okay, did you people understand what is requirement traceability matrix? Okay, so what are the types of requirement of traceability? Not matrix, but traceability. This we trace it, right? So I think I have. One second. Did I put it here? Yeah, here I have put it. Here I missed it. Okay, I'll update this properly. So what types of traceability we perform is forward traceability we do, backward we do, and bidirectional we do. We'll see one by one what it is. Okay. So what we do in forward traceability is, as I said, from requirement, we'll check is this requirement covered in a test case for testing. So doing it from the requirement to the test case, from top to bottom, is called as forward traceability. Okay, so maps the requirement to the test cases. It ensures all requirements are being tested from top to bottom. All the requirements are tested in the sense, do we have test cases for all the requirements? Okay, and done before test case execution. When we'll be doing a forward traceability is, obviously before executing a test case, we need to ensure if all the requirements are covered in a test case. So obviously before our execution or before our testing, we'll be doing a forward traceability, and it checks if product is developed in the right direction. So in this way we can ensure that a proper product is being developed. Okay, so this is forward traceability. So now backward traceability is the other way. So this will be done after testing. So what we'll ensure is, if all the test cases we have tested is covered up as a requirement, we'll be testing, we'll be checking in the backward or reverse traceability. Okay, maps the test cases with the requirements, ensures no additional requirements are being tested from top to bottom. Imagine I have a test case. Okay, for Epic 5 I have a set of test cases. Okay, now Epic 5 is removed from the features as per the client's request. So what will happen? We have to remove the test cases also, right? So that needs to be ensured. Okay, for that only backward is done. So it is obviously done after execution. Okay, I think less than a minute is left. I'll